If you played through Forsaken's campaign, you definitely might have some questions. What was that thing at the end? Was that truly Mara's Sov? And what does it mean for the future? In today's video, I'm going to explain all of that and go more in depth discussing Forsaken's story.
Zavala and Ikora. The Vanguard. Is the best bet I ever lost.
Towards the beginning of Forsaken, we were sent into the Prison of Elders with Cade 6 to figure out what exactly was going on. Why are these prisoners just escaping and who is behind it? We quickly learned it was Aldrin Sov who gathered an entire reanimated army of Scorn and was orchestrating some type of master plan within the Reef. Now, by the way, I actually love how Bungie set this up. You know, the first cutscene you see Aldrin and Cade there, and then you actually jump into the mission, and then it resumes with it again afterwards. I think that was a nice story change and a pretty cool touch right there, but let's continue. After our beloved friend pays the ultimate price, we continue onward to learn about the Barons, their abilities, and why Aldrin did this in the first place. Now, if you played the first game, it doesn't take long to realize that Aldrin is searching for his sister Mara, whose body got destroyed in the Taken King. He knows she is still alive from various reasons, as she's reached out to him before in Grimoire cards, and sometimes he even says he can sense himself feeling her pull. Now, this is sort of the same thing going on in the campaign, but this time she's calling him to the gates of the Dreaming City to free her. Now, while Mara is still alive, and we learn that, later on in the game, what's causing these illusions to Aldrin is actually not Mara at all. This entity appears in fact to be an Ahamkara known as Riven, who's been infected and taken in the heart of the Dreaming City. So as you can see, Aldrin progresses through all of this madness because he thinks he's freeing his sister, the Queen, from the Ascendant Plane, when that's not the case at all.
Love is fleeting, but devotion, now that is forever. Not one of them has ever shown more strength of devotion than you, my dear brother. The Awoken cannot be trusted. You and I know that better than anyone. Free me.
Let's next talk about the end of the campaign and what it means before we discuss who Riven is. So throughout this whole process, Aldrin learns the only way to apparently open this rift or portal to let Mara out is to blend light and dark together. This is why we see him going to the Shard in the EDZ, taking parts of the light, and he has those House of Dusk fallen, behind him, that scene. Now, if you watch my video about how the Awoken was born, this is very interesting because that's how they were born in the first place. They were on this colony ship, darkness surrounded them at the beginning of the collapse, and the Traveler, like at the end of Destiny 2, unleashed this wave of light throughout the universe. When this happened, they were sent to this sort of pocket dimension where they awoke and were born anew. So that's how they were created, but that's not the actual point. The point is they were born from both light and dark together when those two forces clashed together outside of their colony ship, one of the Exodus green ships. This also can be familiar if you hear Mara say lines from the previous Grimoire. She says, "Starlight was my mother, and my father was the dark." So not her literal mother who is actually in some of the new lore, but the two forces that created the Awoken themselves, being the light and the darkness. So all of that basically explains Aldrin's eyes and even the little Taken effect on his face. Many people told me, hey, that's just the Awoken effect, man, that's always been there. Yes, the Awoken effect is on his face at some points, but it seems more is going on here, as we can gather. So after Aldrin combines both light and dark and communicating with what he thought was Mara, the voice of Riven pulls him inside and eats him.
Devoted, pathetic fool. Thank you.
We then spend the last mission slaying enemies and defeating the voice of Riven ourselves. After that gameplay, we destroy Riven, Aldrin gets spit out or falls on the ground, and then we confront him with Petra and then, do the deed. Now, it's worth noting, if you haven't figured it out, that this thing is not the Ahamkara Riven. This is basically just like a servitor that's the voice of the creature itself, possibly what was persuading and luring Aldrin to the Dreaming City in the first place. So it may be a little confusing at first. I know I jumped in at first and I'm like, wait, that's not a wish dragon, that doesn't look like what I think an Ahamkara would be, and then I realized what it actually was and the name of it. Now before moving forward, it's also worth noting that Ahamkara are basically shapeshifters. So Riven itself can take different forms, and this is explained in multiple new entries. The first one is from Riven. It says, Riven does the same as she relaxes. She spreads and shuffles and shakes her pinions until they all lie straight. And also in the card Throne, which says, with the help of Riven, who had taken the shape of a needle-nosed basilisk, and also Riven, now an immense serpent with broad tiger paws tightened around the perimeter of the room like a noose. So the point is, yes, Ahamkara were wish dragons, but keep in mind they are shapeshifters as well, and can take sort of different forms, which is weird, but we'll talk about that in a future video. Now there also is a new emblem that may give us a sneak peek at what Riven may look like, and it could be something totally different, it may change, but I'll show it to you in a couple of seconds. You can click away if you want. Here it is if you want to see it. So what is Riven? Riven is an Ahamkara that Aldrin brought back to the Queen when they first set up in the Reef. When he found it, it was just a baby then. He then gifted it to Mara out of respect and gratitude, and things continued as normal. It says, so Aldrin went out voyaging among the worlds, swift as a blue-shift ghost. In time, he returned to the Reef with a creature not larger than his hand, saying, behold, sister, the lie that makes itself true. This is an Ahamkara. So after the thing grew and she spent more time with it, she came up with this little plan, I guess. She didn't want anyone speaking or talking to the Ahamkara but herself, and this was because of the immense power it possessed. You see, these Ahamkara or wish dragons at one time were all over the solar system. These creatures were sought out because they had the capability to grant these wishes. So you can imagine how that can fall in the wrong hands and people can get, a bunch of crazy wishes and get some weird dark magic going. So because of that, at some point the Vanguard was like, hey, this could turn out to be pretty bad, so they started the Great Ahamkara Hunt, and they were pretty much hunted to extinction. So at this moment, the only surviving Ahamkara that we know of is Riven, and was under the control of Mara Sov. Now, when she had control of Riven, there could have been more out there. I don't know exactly when the hunt took place in correlation to this exact scene, but you get what I'm saying. So there they were. Mara had an Ahamkara in the Dreaming City, and she used it as her own. Things were pretty good. Fast forward a long time, we come to the Taken King situation where Mara had her ultimate plan. Here it seems her goal was to basically sacrifice her fleet, her whole Awoken people, and teleport into the Ascended Plane where she could take the spot of Oryx, the Taken King. Eris sent the Guardians in so that we could free up the throne, and Mara, knowing that it would be vacant, would be able to swoop right in and just take it. But apparently during this process, something happened with Oryx's throne world that kind of got damaged, and Mara had some complications. But during all the fighting we were doing in Taken King, when we were going to stop Oryx, he actually invaded the Dreaming City and infected the place with his Taken. He even took the Ahamkara Riven in the process, and this is why the infection now exists. So everything we're doing in the Dreaming City in this expansion up to the raid was all spawned by Oryx the Taken King. So even though he's long dead, he's gone, he's still having an impact on the game. So speaking of the raid, the Last Wish raid releases tomorrow and will shed a little bit more light on this whole topic. Now there are some spoilers in a second here, so I'll give you a couple of seconds to click away if you want. But here in the raid, we're going to encounter some of the Queen's tech units who were taken, and also the final boss being Riven, Voice of the Thousands. So although we are going into the Dreaming City, the heart of it, and invading to stop this threat, lore-wise this is not very smart as something else is controlling the Taken, and I'll talk about that in one of my next videos. Just some raid side notes before I go. First off, the raid releases at 10 AM Pacific time and 1 PM Eastern Standard Time, which is basically the reset for anyone's wondering. So if you know the reset in your time zone, that's when the raid drops. Now it appears the Thousand Voices exotic, the one that blasts the beam, does drop from the raid, but the Wish Ender can be found elsewhere. So many people thought, hey, it's the Wish Ender, Last Wish raid, it may be similar, but it seems the Ender will be a part of a quest in the world from what data miners have gathered. Anyway, Guardians, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it shed a little bit of light on what the ending meant and what exactly is going to happen in the raid. Now this was basically a summary. There is tons of lore you can read up on that backs this up, and there's even some more quotes I could have included, but that would make the video way too long, and I definitely recommend you check it out. So let me know down below what mysteries and secrets you'd like to see in future videos, and definitely stay tuned for what the Last Wish actually means. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. My name's Ifade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.